Fear doesn't just take things away, it taxes you. Not like the other taxes you pay, income tax, sales tax, through the Internal Revenue Service, but through its evil twin, the other IRS, the Internal Reluctance Service.
Welcome to the Waste No Day podcast, a podcast specifically for and about the home services industry as it relates to plumbing, heating, air conditioning, and electrical. More than a podcast, Waste No Day is a credo, a determination, a mindset. It is a never-ending discipline. It is a refuse to lose pursuit. It is a wake-up call every morning to waste no day. Now here's your hosts, Brian Burton and Nate Minnick.
Hey, welcome to another episode of the Waste No Day podcast. Your host, Nate and Brian, hanging out with you again on another Monday morning or whenever you're listening to this, and looking forward to, of course, another great show. This time we're talking about the fear tax. I would give you the subtitle, but why not keep you in suspense for a little bit longer? What is this mysterious fear tax that we were talking about? We'll get to that in a little bit, but it's time for us to kick it off with the intro with just the two of us. Brian, give us that quote.
Fear kills more dreams than failure ever will. Susie Kassem.
Yeah, I can feel that. There's plenty of things that I'm too scared to try.
What's that? Give us a couple. Working with your hands, leaving the office, selling,
lifting weights. I don't know.
Yeah, lifting heavy things.
You're so kind. Thank you. You definitely helped eliminate my fear there. So now I feel like I'll go do it and conquer.
There's so many awesome quotes today. Like I had, 7 of them that I was juggling, and I'm talking to Danny Jones, our recent vice president of operations here at our Ben Franklin in Scottsdale. And I'm like, bro, I'm getting ready to go record an episode, and I'm trying to decide on a quote. Like 3 or 4 of them we had used. I know we've used before. At least we've talked about in episodes. And I threw Danny the quotes, and he selected this one. And I'm like, you're darn right. That was the one that was getting me the most as well. Fear kills more dreams than failure ever will. It hits, it's not the only thing it's going to kill. In our world, in the home services, fear kills more sales than objections could ever dream of. Right? More opportunities, more income than the economy will ever scratch the surface on. Fear kills more of your income, you in the driver's seat of this truck that Nate and I are sharing shotgun in, than your competition ever will. Kills more income than your skill level ever will. Because for the most part, fear is what keeps us from ever taking that first step. But fear doesn't just take things away, it taxes you. Not like the other taxes you pay, income tax, sales tax, through the Internal Revenue Service, but through its evil twin, the other IRS, the Internal Reluctance Service.
Well done.
And it's such a higher tax. The Internal Reluctance Service doesn't send letters in the mail. It takes its payment every time we hesitate. Every time we hold back instead of offering the top option, not the top option, the best option. Every time we convince ourselves that this client can't afford it. And just like the real IRS, the Internal Reluctance Service charges interest. I'll never forget a call I ran 18 years ago, or maybe 19, 20 years ago. Older lady. I'm going to butcher the details, but we'll call her Mary. Widow, living in a home that was, in terms of the plumbing system and a lot of other things that I could see, that was just kind of falling apart around her. Walked into the garage for a maintenance, saw a water heater so old, the label had faded. It was leaking water from up top down like the electrical ports and down into the sheetrock stand that they have in Las Vegas. And it had copper flex lines like you do in seismic zones. You don't just pipe copper right to it. They have flex lines, and it was pretty clear one of those flex lines was leaking. And the water heater was, I don't remember how old, but I remember it being old. And remember thinking like, this water heater needs to go, but I'm going to do her a favor and just replace the flex lines or whatever. I don't remember. I don't remember much of the detail. I just remember doing a small repair, only offering a small repair, and getting her, quote unquote, taken care of. But the thing was in rough shape and needed to be replaced. But I played it small. I told myself what she had told me. Hey, she's on a fixed income. She can't afford it. Let's not overwhelm her. So I did the patch job, so to speak, the cheapest possible fix for her. I don't know, a couple $100, shook her hand, drove away. I feel like it was weeks later, could have been months, but it's a long time ago. Got a call back. The water heater let go, flooded her garage, went into the house that the drywall stand's connected to, flooded the laundry room behind that wall, thousands in damage. A neighbor was telling me that Mary was devastated. A guy who just kind of walked over and was like, nosy neighbor, how they get down. She didn't have the money for the insurance deductible. She was afraid she didn't have enough coverage to cover all this, which I remember thinking, well, that's not possible. And now she doesn't have hot water either, right? And she ended up financing a new water heater, but now she'd already paid for that repair. So she was out a few $100. And now she's out a G for the insurance deductible. And here's the biggest thing that I noticed. And if you've heard me overcome objections for replacing things that are probably going to cause water damage, you probably feel me say this part, and she's part of the reason. This happened to many people over the years. The trauma of watching her like drag stuff out of the laundry room, and me knowing that once the restoration company gets there, that they're cutting, 18, 24 inches of drywall off the floor because it's all drenched. It's not salvageable. You can't just dry it out and you're good to go, right? And then they're going to bring those massive plastic fans in, and they're super loud. Like you can't be on a phone call on the same floor that one of those is going off. And they're going to be there for days. So Mary's going to be staying at a hotel. And some people like to go stay at a hotel, maybe a little vacation, right? Not Mary. She's not that person. And I remember just feeling like somewhat devastated. And I apologized to her. I said, I should have probably had a more in-depth conversation with you about the fact that this water heater needed to go. But I wanted to cost you as little as possible. And what was even worse is like she was apologetic for me. Like, oh no, you did what you thought was best. And I'm like, no, I didn't. As a matter of fact, I knew what was best. I did what I thought was the least resistance. You see, I know better. I was like one of those doctors that just loves to push drugs on people, but knows that I need to tell you to start eating better, lose some weight, swap out the fries for asparagus. Like poor Danny and Kyle. We go out to lunch once a week. Ben Franklin leadership team. And everybody just got whatever all the time. But now I'm getting steak frites. And I get double steak. And I'm like, hold the truffle fries. To my shame, because they're so good. They have McDonald's fries at this place. And they just drenched in truffle butter, so good. Like a garlic truffle butter. But I get double steak and hold the fries and give me either white rice if I feel like I need the carbs that day is a good solid lift, or just asparagus. And, for me shaming these two pigs is they just eat whatever. They're doing the same thing. You know how it is. So they did get ice cream today, though, after all that. And they and the waitress forced me to eat a bite. I'm just like, I'm not.
Did
they? They got one bowl. And we said 2 spoons, but she brought 3 because there's 3 of us. And I'm like, I'm not going to be the third spoon.
That's cute. Wow.
Yeah. So I'm taking a bite. A few weeks ago, they did this again, and I took a bite. And Danny and I are facing Kyle. Kyle takes a pic, shoots it into ChatGPT. ChatGPT corrects it the way he says, and it looks like Danny is feeding me a bite of ice cream. Thankfully, he did not post that into our plumbing group because he could very easily.
Post in the plumbing? Let's see that on the Facebook group. Come on.
No. You don't want to get him booted. Take his phone and delete his Facebook account. So I don't know, why was I telling the culinary dropout restaurant story? I don't even know how we got there. But yeah, I'm the doctor who, instead of telling you to swap out the truffle fries for asparagus, I just give you some blood pressure pills, right? I don't tell you to start walking more and maybe drop 30 pounds and start getting yourself to the gym, man up, woman up, whatever, grown up, and get yourself into the gym. Or maybe, it's not, everybody doesn't need the gym necessarily. Like, there are people who hunt and who go on long hikes and this kind of thing and are very active. Get the heart rate up. Just beat yourself up physically, right? Don't let life be hard because you're so soft. It's just a miserable way to live the second half of a life, right? Where life's miserable because I'm so soft. And I've been through it where, I was not only an addict when I went into rehab in 2010, 2011, whatever it was, but I weighed more than I do now, which I'm like 215 now. But you would call me muscular. I'm not like jacked or anything, but you would definitely call me athletically built or muscular. But I was probably a little heavier than I am now, and I didn't have an ounce of muscle on my frame. I was just fat and sloppy, and I couldn't walk up 4 steps without being out of breath. And I was an addict. It's like, I took it so easily on myself. I worked really hard, but that was about it. Not a good dad, not a good husband, not a real good member of the team, even, just all out for myself. Anyway, just bring it back. All right, let's focus, buddy. Come on. Hold me accountable here, will you?
I'm letting you go, man.
Yeah, so I mean, I know how it is. It's like you're out of shape and it's time to get in shape. And the only easy part of that is hearing this conversation. Everything else sucks. Saying that I no longer eat things like French fries, it sucks. But here's what I can tell you. You will get to the point where you look forward to your, whatever it is, your chicken breast and asparagus stalks or whatever. You will, because you're so hungry. And it's like, I can't wait to get this up in me. And then you eat it and you're like, man, I could go for Danny and Kyle's ice cream right about now, but just get away and then walk back to wherever you're going. Don't drive. So yeah, and I've been on the other side, so I understand how hard it is to start making those steps, but fear's the killer. You just get started, just start moving. But yeah, instead of being the good doctor that told her what is needed, despite the fact that it's more difficult for her and by far worse, a more difficult conversation for me, I told her what was the easiest for her and the easiest conversation for me. And now I'm back weeks, months later, whatever it is, having to do the job anyway, right? I'm swapping that water heater out. But it cost her a few $100 extra and $1,000 insurance deductible. Now, she was fine with financing the water heater, which really sucks because I'm like, oh, she probably would have been fine doing it last time I was here. But carving out that $1,000 insurance deductible was a hit for her. And having her house trashed with water damage was a hit for her. Yep. So that was a nightmare. That day, it hit me. I hadn't saved Mary money. I had forced her to pay the internal reluctance service tax, and I didn't even give her a choice. And the cost was more than a few extra dollars for her. It was peace of mind. It was security. It was her home. I've never had a major flood at a house I lived in, but my next door neighbor, Steve in Lancaster, had a major flood. And I saw it while the water was running, and I shut it off. He just frantically called me at one night, and I flew next door and got the water shut off. And I think I repaired the thing for him, but got the restoration company out, man, and it was just a nightmare. And his house just never seemed the same to me again after that, because I'm in there the next few days, just making sure they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. And everything's bare bones and you see walls to studs and the flooring's pulled up. And it's like, yeah, it didn't feel like the same house anymore, you know? And that's a real thing. I've talked to clients that had all that stuff happen, and they're like, you know, when you talk to a client, you're like, yeah, you know what? I got to tell you, man, looking at these emergency shutoffs you got under the kitchen sink here, these like plastic push-pull pieces of crap, one day you're going to need this. And there's a chance that you go push it and it closes and you're good to go. But when you go to pull it to open it back up, valve pops off in your hand. And then you got 7 gallons a minute just pouring out of that pipe until you get out to the main valve and shut it off. And how do I know this? Because I've responded to emergency calls more times than I can count where that exact thing happened. And sometimes you'll have this conversation and people will go, oh, yeah, it happened upstairs. And I'm like, oh, what happened? And they start telling me about the damage. But when they're talking about it, they're talking about a traumatic experience for their family. So plumbers, when you have the opportunity to save someone from a flooded home, you're saving them from the trauma of having all their stuff picked up off the floor and flooring ripped up and drywall cut up a foot or more, up to 2 feet, and these huge fans in there for days on end. There's no watching TV. There's no scrolling social media with these fans on. There's no having a conversation. Like, the house is useless to them for a few days. And I know all my restoration buddies listening right now are like, dude, shut up, bro. Chill. Let them let plumbing nature take its course. Right? But plumbers, we're in the business of keeping our clients from experiencing these things. So keep them from experiencing these things, but have the conversation like you mean it.
There's enough disasters that occur naturally.
Yeah. Resto companies are good to go.
I think there's plenty out there. Yeah. We don't need to let it happen if we see it coming.
Yeah. So, you know, I just kind of let that water heater destroy the serenity of her home, the tranquility of her little space. Right. And I let it get the best of me, but that's what fear does. It doesn't just take money out of your pocket. It robs homeowners of solutions that in some cases they desperately need. But in some cases, you could just possibly save them from something horrific. Not necessarily 100% of the time, but if there's a chance, they should know about it and they should make the decision, right? So you can bet I ran into that scenario many times later. And I would say, well, you know, most people toward the end of my career were taking me up on whatever I recommended, but some people didn't. And I talk about this in one of the videos in Blue Collar Closer. I think the Sell with Story course that I did in there. There were multiple people who didn't take my recommendation and then called me back out, hat in hand, saying, wish we had listened, you know, months later, whatever. And they're pretty like crappy cases. Like, you feel like you'd be like, yeah, oh, I told you, you know, but you don't. No part of a decent human being wants to see someone's house flood and go, I told you so. But it does add to the credibility and confidence the next time I have that conversation with a homeowner, where I'm like, look, at this point, I'm 46 and been in the plumbing industry for majority of my life since I was 14, 13. More times than I can count, people didn't take my recommendation or a plumber I was with recommendation and had something bad happen because of it. Usually just, you know, some water damage, nothing that's irreparable. But it's just like, I know it can happen, and looking at the quality or the, like, what state this equipment's in or piping, whatever. So if I go to my neighbor's house to watch a football game, I'm not even a neighbor. If I go up to Pine Top, hours away from here with Andrew Dobbins and family, right? And my family, and we go up there and spend a long weekend. We watch some football and stuff, do some snowboarding and sledding and all that. If he has those corrugated copper supply lines on those cheap plastic stemmed emergency shutoffs, and I see him, like, I'm not doing that work, right? There's no Ben Franklin in Pine Top. Like, I'm not recommending a friend. But if I saw it, I'd be like, bro, you got to get rid of that stuff, man. That's going to cause you an insurance deductible. On a long enough timeline, it just is. Right? If there are things I see at friends' homes, even if it's not somewhere that my team can do the job, I'm just bringing it up. And I'm like, check the reviews, check Google, look for somebody with some good reviews, check for their 1-star reviews and see how they respond to them. That's a big one. And then call that company out and get them to come and swap them out. And they're always like, same question, right? How much should it cost? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know this market. I know that in most markets, it should cost a little bit less than Phoenix because the cost of doing business is a lot higher here. But realistically, I don't know, man. Just get them out and hear them out and see what they have to say. If you want to get multiple estimates, get multiple estimates. I'm not anti getting multiple estimates any more than when I got to a home and a homeowner would say, yeah, the second company out, I'm getting one more out. I didn't get like offended like a lot of techs do, especially the newer ones to sales. You're like, it's freaking getting 3 bids. And you're like all offended and butthurt. Like, why are you getting emotional about that? Everybody's parents told them to get 3 bids, right? How's that an attack on you exactly? I didn't get worked up about it. I'm like, yeah, no, that's very smart of you to be getting multiple bids. But my job, while I'm standing there with that client, is to convince them that they don't need a third one. They found their guy. And by guy, I mean their plumber for life. As long as they live here and I'm in a truck, they'll never have another plumber in this house. That's my responsibility. I always felt like. So I went at the rest of that call differently than most techs, right? Yeah. So how are we, the rest of us, paying the secondary IRS, the internal reluctance service, other than the fact that, and the only reason I decided to go into that story, and I was trying to think of stories like that, and obviously that one stands out to me to this day, because there were several people who had restoration companies out after I had recommended something and they didn't do it and they still had me out anyway. But she's the only one I can remember that I decided not to recommend that top option. Oh yeah, that's why we said it. Because I'm saying, like, fear will keep us from even recommending the top option, right? From ever even bringing it up. And whatever that fear might be, most of the time, it's the fear of how they're going to react while they say no. Most of the time. And there's no more phantom, unrealistic fear than the fear of social rejection on a sales call of some kind. And people get butthurt still, 2025. When I say you're a salesperson sitting in the truck of the skilled trades, but you're a salesperson. You're selling your services, or even if you're just a full-time installer, because we have a lot of installers listening to this show, you're selling the client on keeping you there for your company to do that job the entire time you're on that job, right? And the quality of your install is selling the client on giving a good review or recommending somebody else to have you guys do it. We're all in sales. Nobody cares that all of the marketing done on Google or Nextdoor or Thumbtack or billboards or commercials or radio, what are the other ones? Whatever. Nobody has a problem with the fact that that is sales, right? But as soon as you talk about the tech being a salesperson, you're a horrible person. I don't know. I can't believe 4.5 years later into this show, I'm still getting hit up by people like this. I'm not a salesman, bro. Like, okay, cool. Enjoy your $23 an hour for the rest of your life, or whatever dollar an hour raises you get later. You're a salesperson. So how do we keep from overpaying the internal reluctance service? And I broke it down into 3 simple, I'll say, but not so easy steps. Lesson 1 would be recognize the invoice. Fear sends you a bill every time you hesitate. Every time we get the pit of the stomach feeling and stop or draw back, fear sends an invoice. If you feel that knot in your stomach, that is the tax collector knocking. And just being aware of it, understanding that it's happening is the first step in sliding that debit card back into your pocket and saying, not this time. And we did a little talk on that university study about people. Yeah, we did on an intro recently about where they had 3 control groups. One that did karaoke, one that took like a basic test of some kind. What was the other one? Oh, one that did a little public speaking. And one group said nothing at all. They just had them wait for 30 minutes and then go do it. The other group, they told them to keep telling yourself you're nervous. And then the third group, they told them, tell yourself you're excited. This is a great opportunity. I'm excited. And group 3 did significantly better on all 3 than the other 2 groups, even to the point that they were judged by public speaking judges who knew nothing about the game that was being played. And they all judged group 3 better at public speaking. They spoke longer. They had more interaction from the audience. And the only difference was they were telling themselves, I'm excited about this. This is a great opportunity. So lesson 2 would be reframe the risk. Where fear tells us don't ask, you'll lose. The real truth, as you know, if you listen to this show enough, by not asking, you've already lost. You can't lose any harder. So the risk, the biggest risk is giving in to fear by a long shot. Your conversion rate when you don't present or ask is going to be pretty close to 0. So the only way to beat reluctance is to see offering solutions as a service. The biggest thing you do is offer solutions. So reframe the risk as the opportunity, the exciting part, the fun part of your job. We got to start reading a review for Blue Collar Closer because we get so many people just posting in there about their successes now. And we have a section in there called winning. Your wins equal our fuel. And people will just post in there and say, man, been using the GoPro system, closed my biggest sale, whatever. There's just a lot of that kind of stuff. And I thought it'd be cool to read a review from there every now and then. But it's something that's said often is that I was not asking for the sale. Now I'm asking for the sale on every call, and all of a sudden it's exploding. And now, because I know how to ask for the sale and I'm learning how to overcome objections, this is the most exciting part for me. And for most people, that's by far the most anxiety producing part, is when you're getting to that part where you know you're about out of things to present and it's do or die time. So you're going to push the options forward and start praying and hoping they just pick one and tell you to go ahead and start installing or get them on the calendar for install. But you know it's pretty rare that actually happens, but you're still not quite to the point where you're going to ask them to take one. But people in bluecollarcloser.com, check it out. It's in the school app, SKOOL. But if you just go to bluecollarcloser.com, you'll see what we mean. And I'm mentioning it on here more because a lot of people are coming into the group right now just because they hear about it on here. So people are saying it's the most exciting part of the call for them anymore. So that's a good thing, because typically it's like this. You have 2 really anxiety producing parts of a service call. Number 1 is when you first knock on that door and you get the first picture of who you're going to be dealing with. In most techs, there's this little fear of it's going to be the worst client you've ever had. And you don't have to run a truck very long to know that there's some pretty crappy people out there. And they can really ruin a day, even at first call. And we always have this little bit of sense of the next call is going to be that person. So you get over that pretty quickly, because most people, vast overwhelming majority of people, are not that, right? As we've seen here in the last few weeks. Most people are pretty good people. You got your whack jobs, who just got to make everybody's life miserable. But that's not most people. It's pretty rare. So you get past that part. And then the other part really is when you're going to show money, right? I'm going to show money. And so many people, when I show with our prices, so many people gasp. Like, are you crazy? Right. And you're kind of about that part. But it's okay. That part's okay. It's a good thing. You've not had your teeth knocked out yet, right? Let them gasp. Here's the thing to remember when they gasp. That means they want it. So the actual hardest part of the job is done and done well. If they're completely zero interest, they're unengaged, indifferent about it, and they look at the options like, yeah, all right, well, we'll get back to you. It's like they don't want it at all. Who cares? That's the one that should hurt. But if they're like, oh my gosh, this was $4,200, $4,000. Well, they were getting ready to reach for their debit card before you showed them the amount. So they really want it. So that's kind of the reaction we want, right? Now, if you get better at building value and kind of anchoring and making them think it's going to be 3-4 times more than it actually is, as you get better and better at your craft, and you get to the point where they'll be like, oh, wow, really? Oh my, I thought it was going to be 3 times that. And you're like, oh, crap. Should have looped that water softener generator in there with it, My first option should have had more stuff in it. But it's fine. It's more than fine. It's kind of what you're looking for. But then you get through that, and then you get to the point where the question needs to be popped. Are we going to move forward, right? And that's the biggest anxiety producing piece. Unless you make that the most fun part of your day. Reframe. Lesson 3, collect courage daily. Because courage isn't built in like massive leaps or elevator rides. Courage is built step by step by step. Small reps. So every time you offer everything in option 1, everything they could possibly want, present the upgrade, pause for silence, and see what happens. You're putting money back in your pocket instead of the IRS. And little wins compound into big confidence. The internal reluctance service. I thought you'd like that, bro. I was going to text it to you. And I was like, let's see. I want to see him react.
Wow. I do like it.
Everybody listening doesn't get to see him react, but you heard him. You heard his reaction. I like that every now and then when I'm writing. And man, I don't know what it was. People were kind of in and out while I was doing this, because I'm going to use quite a bit of this on what will be Wiser Wednesday tomorrow morning, as we're recording this on a Tuesday evening. And then probably a little bit for the Thursday Q&A in our Blue Collar Closer group. There is a live 1-hour call with me and sometimes special guests every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern. So that's a good time. But yeah, I'll repurpose this stuff from time to time. And then it's weeks before the episode actually drops. So they've forgotten about it. Or they're just like, oh yeah, I remember this. Yeah. A little confirmation. So you got anything to add, buddy, about the internal reluctance service?
I mean, I know this is a great topic and you've put a lot of thought into, which I think is spot on. It's not just in sales. Like there's an IRS tax in life, man. And I've seen that in my own life with just being, more shy in instances or avoiding things that could have went into like potential, cool opportunities or whatever. And yeah, some people are more wired for adventure, if you will. Some people are not as wired for that, and that's fine. But like, there's still a tax to be paid for the reluctance of pursuing, whether it's the hard thing, the right thing, or just the exciting thing, like anything that's outside of the comfort zone, which is really that's another variation of this, which is, if you don't ever push yourself out of the comfort zone, you never get that expansion. You never get that additional opportunity or those unique moments. Like you just continue to hermit up, and there's a cost of that. And yeah, it's a cost that is not immediately visible or necessarily felt or understood, because it's the cost of what could have been. Like in that case, it's the tax of like the missed opportunity, the missed experience, and potentially like other things that could have came with it, which, could be far more tangible in nature. But there's a tax to that, and the ability to push yourself out of that zone and like even overcome the fear, if that's what it is, if it's fear that's holding us back, to overcome that and continue on. There's a story about Elvis Presley. Like before he was the king of rock and roll, he was a truck driver. And in 1954, he actually got an opportunity to sing at the Grand Ole Opry. It was the biggest stage in country music at that time. But he was nervous. And so when he performed, he kind of like held back. And the show manager told him that he should go back to driving trucks. And like that fear, it crushed him for a while. Like he really got rejected and felt that. And he nearly stopped chasing music altogether. For the benefit of those of you who like Elvis Presley and quite a few people in the world, he overcame that fear, but that could have been the tax. The tax could have been an entire musical career, tens of dozens of hits and millions of dollars and everything else, if he had succumbed to the fear and let that control him. And so while that's more of an example about how it held him back personally, I think both applications are aligned here in terms of what fear does and can do or prevent us from doing if we allow it to control us.
Yeah, I do want to hit one or two of those other quotes. Like, they're not new to this show by any stretch of the imagination. And if anybody reads Brian Tracy as a result of listening to this show, because I just never stop going on about him, you'll know this one well because Brian quotes it in, I believe, every one of his books, by Ralph Waldo Emerson. Do the thing you fear, and the death of fear is certain. And then another one by Emerson. He who is not every day conquering some fear has not learned the secret of life. And the Mark Twain quote, I'm pretty sure we talked about recently. Courage is the resistance to fear, the mastery of fear, not the absence of fear. So you're not brave because you're not afraid. You're brave because you act anyway. I know we talked about that recently.
Yep, we did.
And then Joseph Campbell's sick quote, the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. All right, let's take a little bit on that. And of course, the man himself, Carl Gustav Jung. Where is your fear? There is your task. But we could pause on those last two for a minute and the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek.
Yeah.
A couple things pop into your head there, buddy.
I mean, it's a profound quote, no doubt. It's just the application of it that is.
Did a couple caves pop into your head? They look like 45
Not
pound
immediately. No, those aren't in caves. I see those just sitting out
next to the treadmill you're walking on.
Yeah, man. I tell you what, like the fear is a real thing, and that's it's something that if you got kids, you can see it in them too, because they're going to be far less political about fear. They're just gonna, I don't really want to do it, or like I don't feel like it, or they're going to come up with some kind of cover up excuse, and you can kind of see right through that and be like, you're nervous about this, aren't you? Right. Whereas as adults, we've gotten really good at whitewashing the truth and making it look prettier than it actually is, which is, that's not really for me, or I'm more of a bookworm, or whatever you want to say. And it's okay to be comfortable in your own skin, and there's power in that for sure. But I tell you what, the world would be a different place if great men never pursued scary things. Like, every explorer that ever lived, every inventor that ever, got a failed patent, or any of those types of things where like you had to overcome that stuff. Like the world would be a different place. And so, man, how much better would the world be if you, dear listener, overcame a fear that you're dealing with right now?
Yeah, in one way or the other. But what we're talking about here is like if you're listening to this, you're interacting with clients in some capacity, I assume, or training people who do, even if it's on the phone. The internal reluctance service is real. It doesn't file paperwork. It doesn't send you letters, but it will drain your income, your confidence, and your client's trust in you every day that you let fear make your decisions. Every time we hesitate, every time we hold back, we're making a payment to a tax that we will never get back. And much like the Internal Revenue Service, that money, most of it, is not used for good. It's not taken and dispersed amongst the poor. It's paying some politician that you wouldn't even vote for. But the opposite of all that is true as well. Every time we lean in, every time we ask, every time we present the full solution, we're giving ourselves a raise, both short-term and, more importantly, long-term. We're serving the client at the highest level. We're cutting the internal reluctance service out of the deal. So the question is simple. On your next call, service call, phone call, sales call, are you going to keep paying the tax out of fear, or are you finally going to keep that money where it belongs? Nate, let's bring it in for a landing. I've never used to say it like every week, but I've never said it.
I know, right? I could tell you were really excited about this because we just blew right through the introduction and into the episode. We never even read a review. So we got to capture that at the end of the episode.
Wow. Yeah.
I know you were you were so excited to just get into it.
I already read the review too. And I was like, I'm pumped to read his review.
Well, who do we got today? Let's do it.
Well, for one, this is from January 10th, 2025. It is the first review we've read from 2025. Up to this point,
all right,
every review we've ever read on this show has been from 2024 or before. Title of the review: No Guru Garbage Here. 5 stars. In a home service industry world full of everybody being gurus and most of them not knowing what they're talking about, it's nice to find a place with meaningful, actionable education on a regular basis. I am officially one of the dozens of listeners.
You must be.
Yeah. Southern Values Chris. Now, I'm going to go out on a limb here because there's a man named Chris Powers from Southern Values Heating and Air in Florida who interacts with us quite a bit. I think I believe he's in Blue Collar Closer, although when this review was written back in January, Blue Collar Closer did not exist. It's only about 4 months old. 4 months young, if you will. But yeah, pretty sure he's in there. But yeah, appreciate it, Chris Powers. No guru garbage here for show.
Like that. Great review. And thank you, Chris, for the compliments. We hope that we continue to maintain that relationship for the dozens and dozens of other listeners besides yourself that tune in every single week. And we really do appreciate that and the time that it takes to write a review, even if it's a short one. That makes an impact not only for us, but for other listeners to hear the encouraging words and stories of you, other listeners out there who have been impacted by this podcast, by different episodes and guests, and the amazing knowledge and transition of energy or enthusiasm that they bring to the show every single week. And so we are so grateful for those of you who have taken the time to do that and share that with us. And of course, if you found value in today's episode, or if you find value in the show at all, we would love for you to also leave a 5-star review, or at the very least, share this with a friend and let somebody on the social media networks or somebody at your company know that perhaps they should be tuning in.
All right. So I got one ready while you were doing that. Appreciate you taking a little extra time. I didn't ask people if they would mind if I share these posts publicly, so I'm just going to use the person's initials. But this is in the wins category where you can post inside the Blue Collar Closer community in school, SKOOL. BT said, new monthly personal record. $130,000 in water treatment sales this month. The only thing I can contribute this huge increase to is being part of a group like Blue Collar Closer, following a process and every day striving for 1% better. Let's go.
Love that.
Ye freaking haw. Imagine, plumbers, a world where you drop an extra $130,000 in revenue to your month in water treatment, baby. You know, if you're into water treatment, you come to the right place, because that's how I made my bones for sure. That's what got me out of a truck.
What a great story.
That's what got me into sales. That's what got me into sales. When I say sales, I mean training, and then eventually training other people, and then eventually gave me things to talk about on Waste No Day, and then getting on some stages like Home Service Freedom in Vegas, where I was recently, and then the Blue Collar Closer group. It all started with some water treatment.
And this episode all started with the concept of making sure that you are not allowing the IRS to hold you back or tax you on the potential. Great episode today. We hope that you enjoyed it. That's a wrap for this one. And make sure that you leave us a comment or share this around and let us know, or others know, what you found impactful about this episode. I think Brian really brought a great prepared set of notes today in terms of the topic and really the impact that this can have, and allowing fear to control you can have not only on you, but on the clients that you're serving on a daily basis. And I think especially the story that he gave with the customer, Mary, was very powerful in terms of the potential damage that it can cause, not only to the physical home, but also the relationship of that client. So we'd love to hear your feedback on this episode, and perhaps how you are choosing to overcome some fear in your life. We hope that you are, and we also want to leave you with our weekly challenge, which continues to be the same: to choose to wake up each and every morning and waste no day.